Kira never thought her Tuesday morning would change everything. She was making coffee in her small kitchen when the emergency broadcast signal filled her apartment. The familiar red screen appeared on every device: her phone, television, even the digital clock on her microwave. "Citizens of the Republic," announced the official voice. "The Royal Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding the National Recovery Program." Kira's heart sank. Everyone knew about the program. For 3 years, their country had faced a serious problem. Birth rates had dropped so low that schools were closing, and entire neighborhoods sat empty. The government called it the Great Decline. Scientists said it was caused by pollution and diseases that had swept through the land. The announcer continued reading names from a list. Kira barely listened until she heard something that made her freeze. Kira Voss, age 28, genetic classification A', residing in District 7. The coffee mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. Her name. They had called her name. All selected citizens must report to their designated regional processing centers within 48 hours. This is not optional. This is your duty to help rebuild our nation's future. Kira's legs felt weak. She sat down hard on her kitchen chair, staring at the broken pieces of her favorite mug, the one her younger brother Jax had given her for her birthday last year. It had a picture of a sunflower on it. The broadcast switched to explaining the program. Selected citizens would live in special facilities designed for optimal conditions. They would receive the best food, health care, and education. In return, they would participate in the National Recovery Program to help increase the population. Kira understood what this meant. She would lose her freedom, her choices, her life as she knew it. When the broadcast ended, her apartment felt impossibly quiet. She lived alone since their parents died in the plague 5 years ago. Only Jax remained, and he lived across town working at the power plant. She needed to call him. "Jax?" Her voice shook when he answered. "Kira? You sound strange. What happened?" They called my name. On the broadcast." Silence stretched between them. Then Jax spoke very quietly. "I'm coming over. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything until I get there." While waiting, Kira walked around her tiny apartment. She touched everything: her books, her plants, the photos on her walls. Would she ever see these things again? The government said the facilities were comfortable, but comfortable wasn't the same as free. She looked at the photo of her and Jax at the beach from 3 summers ago. They were both smiling, arms around each other. Life seemed simpler then. The plague was over, and they thought the worst was behind them. Jax arrived 20 minutes later, out of breath from running up 4 flights of stairs. He pulled her into a tight hug. "We'll figure this out," he said. "There has to be a way." "What way?" Kira pulled back to look at him. "You heard the broadcast. It's not optional. They have my genetic information, my address, everything." Jax ran his hands through his dark hair, a habit he'd had since childhood. "Maybe we could leave the city, go to the outer regions where they don't monitor people as closely." "And live how? As criminals? Always running and hiding?" They sat on her small couch, and Kira explained what she knew about the program. Over the past year, thousands of people had been selected based on their genetic profiles. The government tested everyone regularly for health and fitness. Those with the best genes were chosen for the program. "It's not fair," Jax said. "You didn't ask for any of this." "None of us did." Kira stared out her window at the street below. "But someone has to do something about the population problem. Maybe this is how." "Don't say that. Don't make excuses for them." Kira sighed. She worked as a scientist studying food production. She understood numbers and statistics. The birth rate had dropped 70% in 5 years. If nothing changed, their entire civilization might disappear. But understanding the problem didn't make accepting the solution any easier. What about your research? Jax asked. You've been working on something important, haven't you? About food production? Kira nodded. For months, she had been studying soil samples from different regions. Something strange was happening to the farmland, but she hadn't figured out what yet. Her work might help feed people better, which could improve health and maybe even birth rates naturally. I'll have to leave all that behind. Maybe not. Maybe they'll let you continue your research at the facility. Maybe. But Kira doubted it. The program wasn't about science or careers. It was about one specific purpose. They spent the rest of the day together. Jax helped her pack a small bag with personal items she was allowed to bring. The instructions were very specific. 1 bag, 20 pounds maximum, no electronics except basic medical devices. Kira chose carefully. Some clothes, a few photos, her grandmother's necklace, and a small notebook where she kept her research notes. She almost left the notebook behind, thinking it wouldn't matter anymore. But something made her include it at the last minute. Evening approached. They ate dinner together at Kira's kitchen table. Jax had brought food from their favorite restaurant, noodles with vegetables and that spicy sauce they both loved. It might be their last meal together for a very long time. I want you to know something, Kira said as they finished eating. Whatever happens, don't blame yourself, and don't do anything dangerous trying to help me. I need to know you're safe. Don't talk like that. I'm serious, Jax. Promise me. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. I promise. But you have to promise me something too. What? Don't give up. Don't let them make you forget who you are. You're Kira Voss. You're smart and strong and stubborn. You figure out problems that other people can't solve. Whatever they want you to do, find a way to stay yourself. Kira felt tears in her eyes. I'll try. Not try. Do it. That night, Kira barely slept. She stood by her window looking out at the city lights, wondering if other selected people were having similar conversations with their families. Were they scared too? Did any of them want to go to the facilities? Tomorrow, her old life would end and something new would begin. She didn't know what that something would be like, but she made herself a promise. She would pay attention. She would remember everything. And if there was any way to help other people in her situation, she would find it. As the sun rose on her, last morning of freedom, Kira picked up her bag and took one final look around her apartment. Then she locked the door behind her and walked toward whatever came next. The bus ride to the regional processing center took 3 hours. Kira sat by the window, watching familiar streets give way to highways, then forests, then nothing she recognized. 20 other people sat quietly around her, all carrying similar, small bags. Nobody talked much. When the bus finally stopped, Kira couldn't believe what she saw. The facility looked like a luxury resort from the old days. Beautiful white buildings surrounded by gardens and walking paths. A lake sparkled in the distance. If she didn't know better, she might think she was going on vacation. "Welcome to Haven Valley," announced a cheerful woman in a blue uniform as they stepped off the bus. "I'm Ms. Chen, your orientation coordinator. I know this is a big change for all of you, but I promise we'll make this transition as smooth as possible." Ms. Chen looked like someone's favorite teacher. She had kind eyes and spoke in a warm, friendly voice. This made everything more confusing. Kira had expected guards and fences, not someone offering them cookies and juice. They were led into a welcoming center that looked like a hotel lobby. Comfortable chairs, soft music, and the smell of fresh flowers. Other people in blue uniforms smiled and handed out information packets. "First, let's get you checked in," Ms. Chen said. "You'll have medical assessments, room assignments, and orientation sessions. Everything will be explained clearly. Please don't hesitate to ask questions." Kira's medical exam was thorough, but not unpleasant. The doctor, a middle-aged man named Dr. Rivera, was professional and respectful. He asked about her health history, took blood samples, and did various tests. He explained everything he was doing and why. "You're in excellent health," he told her when they finished. "Your genetic profile shows strong immunity and good overall fitness. You should do very well here." "What exactly will I be doing here?" Kira asked. Dr. Rivera paused, choosing his words carefully. "The program is designed to help rebuild our population in the most effective way possible. You'll participate in various activities aimed at that goal, but you'll also have opportunities for education, recreation, and personal development." His answer didn't really answer anything, but his tone suggested he genuinely believed this was a good thing. Next came room assignment. Kira was given a key, card, and directions to Building C, Room 247. The room turned out to be nicer than her apartment back home. A comfortable bed, a desk, a small sitting area, and her own bathroom. The window looked out over the gardens. Her roommate was already there, unpacking her things. She was about Kira's age, with short red hair and nervous energy. "Hi," the woman said, looking up. "I'm Zoe. I guess we're going to be living together." "I'm Kira. Nice to meet you." They shook hands awkwardly. "What do you say to someone in this situation?" "Where are you from?" Zoe asked. "District 7. You?" "District 12. I was working at the hospital there as a nurse." Zoe sat on her bed. "What about you?" "I'm a scientist. I study soil and food production." "Really? That's cool. Maybe they'll let you keep doing that work here." "Maybe." Kira sat on her own bed. "What do you think this place is really like?" Zoe lowered her voice. "I've been here for 2 hours and everyone seems really nice. Almost too nice, you know? But I talked to someone in the hallway who's been here for 3 weeks. She said it's not bad. Good food, interesting classes, recreational activities. The only thing is..." "What?" "You can't leave. And there are cameras everywhere." She pointed, some out to me. "They're hidden, but once you know what to look for, you see them." That evening, all the new arrivals gathered in a large conference room for orientation. About 30 people sat in comfortable chairs while Ms. Chen stood at the front with a presentation screen behind her. "Welcome to Haven Valley," she began. "You are now part of something very important. Our nation faces a serious challenge, and you've been chosen to help solve it." She clicked to the first slide, showing population statistics. The numbers were even worse than Kira had realized. If the trend continued, their civilization really might collapse within a generation. "Each of you has genetic qualities that give you the best chance of producing healthy children. But this program isn't just about that. We want you to be happy, fulfilled, and thriving while you're here." The next slides showed the facility's amenities: a library, computer lab, art studios, gymnasium, swimming pool, and various workshops. There were classes in everything from cooking to philosophy, gardens where people could grow their own plants, even a small movie theater. "You'll have significant freedom within the facility," Ms. Chen continued. "You can choose your daily activities, pursue hobbies, continue your education. The only requirements are participating in the program's core objectives and following basic community rules." Someone raised their hand. "What exactly are the core objectives?" Ms. Chen's smile became slightly strained. "You'll meet with program coordinators individually to discuss your specific role. Everyone's situation is a bit different." After the presentation, they were taken to dinner in a large dining hall. The food was excellent, better than anything Kira had eaten in months. Fresh vegetables, good meat, real bread instead of the processed substitutes most people ate in the cities. She sat with Zoe and 2 other newcomers, a quiet man named Leo who had been a teacher, and a woman called River who worked in communications. They talked about their old lives and tried to figure out what their new lives would be like. "The weird thing is, it doesn't feel like a prison," River said. "Everyone seems genuinely happy." "Maybe because they're treating us well," Leo suggested. "Good food, nice rooms, interesting activities. Some people might prefer this to the struggles outside." "But we didn't choose it," Kira pointed out. "That's what bothers me. Maybe this place is nice, but we were forced to come here. After dinner, they had free time to explore. Kira walked around the facility with Zoe, getting familiar with the layout. The buildings were connected by covered walkways and surrounded by beautiful landscaping. Everything was clean, well-maintained, and peaceful. They passed the library and looked inside. Dozens of people sat reading, studying, or working on computers. It looked like any public library, except everyone was young and healthy-looking. "It's strange," Zoe said as they walked. "Part of me wants to relax and enjoy this. The other part keeps wondering what's really happening here." "I know what you mean." They found the gymnasium and watched people playing basketball and using exercise equipment. Everyone seemed friendly and content. A few people waved at them through the windows. "Tomorrow we meet with our program coordinators," Kira said. "I guess that's when we'll find out what they really expect from us." "Are you scared?" Kira thought about it. Not scared exactly. More like cautious. This place is too good to be true. Nice facilities, good food, friendly staff. But at the end of the day, we're still here against our will. As they walked back to their building, Kira noticed something. The paths were designed to guide people in certain directions. There were subtle barriers that encouraged you to stay in the main areas. And Zoe was right about the cameras. Once you knew to look for them, they were everywhere. That night, lying in her comfortable bed, Kira stared at the ceiling and thought about Jax. Was he worried about her? Was he trying to find a way to contact her? She hoped he was being careful and not doing anything that might get him in trouble. She also thought about her research. Tomorrow, she would ask about continuing her work on soil analysis. Maybe she could find a way to make herself useful, beyond the program's primary purpose. Maybe she could even discover something important that would help everyone, not just the people in this facility. As she drifted off to sleep, Kira made a mental note to pay attention to everything. This place might look like paradise, but she had a feeling there was much more to it than what they were showing the newcomers. 3 weeks into her stay at Haven Valley, Kira had settled into a routine that almost felt normal. She attended morning fitness classes, worked in the facility's research lab during the day, and spent evenings reading or talking with other residents. The food remained excellent. The staff stayed friendly, and nobody seemed particularly unhappy. But something wasn't right. It started with small things. During her individual meetings with Dr. Hawkins, the program coordinator, he asked detailed questions about her family history that seemed unnecessary. He wanted to know about her parents' work, their political views, even their friends and associates. When Kira asked why this mattered, he said it helped them understand her complete background. Then there were the medical tests. Everyone received regular health checkups, which made sense for a program focused on health and wellness. But some of the tests seemed unusual. Blood work every few days, detailed genetic analysis, and questions about her energy levels and mood that felt more like psychological evaluation than medical care. The breakthrough came during her 4th week, thanks to a friendship she'd developed with one of the medical staff. Nurse Patel worked in the lab where they processed all the test results. She was kind about Kira's age and seemed genuinely interested in Kira's scientific background. "You?" "No," Nurse Patel said one afternoon as Kira finished her latest blood draw. "Your results are always interesting to look at. Very healthy markers across the board." "That's good to hear," Kira replied. "Though I have to ask, why do we need so many tests? I understand monitoring our health, but this seems excessive." Nurse Patel glanced around the small medical room, then lowered her voice. "Can I trust you with something?" Kira's heart started beating faster. "Of course. I've been working here for 8 months and I've seen a lot of test results. Yours show something unusual, and it's not just you. It's most of the people here." "What do you mean?" "Your fertility markers. They're improving dramatically since you arrived. Not just maintaining, actually getting better week by week. Same with almost everyone else." Kira frowned. Isn't that the point of the program? To optimize our health for the goals they have? That's what I thought too. But then I started looking at the baseline tests, the ones taken when people first arrive. Almost everyone comes in with significantly reduced fertility markers, much lower than what we'd expect for people your age and health level. The room felt suddenly cold. What are you saying? I'm saying that people aren't just randomly experiencing fertility problems. Something was affecting everyone before they came here. And whatever that something was, it's being reversed by the treatment protocols we use at the facility. That night, Kira couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what Nurse Patel had told her. If people were arriving with artificially low fertility rates, and the facility could reverse those problems, then the fertility crisis might not be natural at all. She thought about her own research back home, those soil samples she'd been analyzing, the strange chemical signatures she'd found but hadn't been able to identify. What if those chemicals weren't just affecting crop growth? What if they were affecting people too? The next morning, she asked Dr. Hawkins if she could continue her soil research at the facility. "That's an interesting request," he said, making notes in her file. "What specifically were you working on?" "I was analyzing soil composition in different agricultural regions, looking for factors that might be affecting crop yields and food quality." Food quality certainly impacts health outcomes. Let me see what I can arrange. 2 days later, Kira was given access to a small lab space and some basic equipment. It wasn't as advanced as what she'd had before, but it was enough to continue her work. She requested soil samples from various regions around the country, claiming she wanted to develop better growing techniques for the facility's gardens. What she found made her hands shake as she read the results. Every sample from populated areas contained trace amounts of the same chemical compound. It was synthetic, definitely man-made, and present in concentrations that would gradually build up in people who ate food grown in that soil or drank water that had filtered through it. She ran the analysis 3 times to be sure. The chemical was a hormone disruptor specifically designed to interfere with reproductive systems. In small doses over time, it would gradually reduce fertility rates without causing obvious symptoms that would make people seek medical treatment. Someone had been deliberately poisoning the soil in agricultural regions across the country. Kira felt sick. This wasn't a natural disaster or an unfortunate consequence of pollution. This was intentional, planned. Someone had created the fertility crisis on purpose. But who and why? She needed more information. Over the next few days, she carefully approached other residents, asking casual questions about their backgrounds and where they'd lived before coming to Haven Valley. She discovered that most came from areas with the highest concentrations of the chemical compound in the soil. She also learned something else disturbing. Many residents had family members who had asked too many questions about the fertility crisis or had worked in fields where they might have discovered the truth. Scientists, journalists, government workers, doctors, and many of those family members had died in accidents or from sudden illnesses during the past few years, like her parents. Her mother had been an environmental scientist. Her father had worked for the agricultural department. They had died in what officials called a car accident, but Kira remembered her mother mentioning strange readings in soil tests just weeks before their death. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed was terrifying. Someone with significant power and resources had deliberately created the fertility crisis. They had eliminated people who might discover the truth. And now they were running facilities like Haven Valley, supposedly to solve the problem they had created. But why go to all this trouble? What was the real purpose of the program? Kira started, paying closer attention to the facility's operations. She noticed that residents were grouped in specific ways. People with certain professions, certain genetic backgrounds, certain regional origins were housed together. The random room assignments weren't random at all. She also noticed that some residents who had been there longer seemed different, not unhappy, but changed. They spoke differently about their old lives, as if those memories were fading. They seemed more focused on facility activities and less interested in the outside world. During a conversation with Zoe one evening, Kira carefully tested a theory. "Do you ever think about your job at the hospital?" she asked. Zoe paused, looking confused. "You know, it's strange. I can remember working there, but it feels like it happened to someone else. Like I'm watching a movie about my old life instead of remembering actually living it. That is strange. But I don't really mind. I'm happier here. The work I do in the facility's medical center is more fulfilling, and everyone here understands what we're going through." Kira felt a chill. Whatever was happening to the long-term residents, it was affecting their memories and their attachment to their previous lives. They were being changed, slowly and subtly, into people who preferred to stay at the facility. That night, Kira made a decision. She needed to find other people who hadn't been affected yet, people who still remembered clearly why they didn't want to be here. Together, they might be able to figure out what was really happening and find a way to stop it. But she also knew she was running out of time. Every day she stayed at Haven Valley, she risked becoming like the other long-term residents. Happy, content, and gradually forgetting why freedom had ever mattered to her. The next morning, she started looking for allies. Finding allies turned out to be harder than Kira expected. Most residents had been at Haven Valley long enough to feel comfortable, even grateful for their situation. When she tried to have careful conversations about life outside the facility, people often changed the subject or gave her strange looks, but she wasn't the only one who felt something was wrong. Leo, the former teacher she'd met on her first day, approached her during lunch one afternoon. He sat down across from her with his tray and spoke quietly. "I've been watching you," he said. "The way you ask questions, the way you look around. You're not buying into this place the way others are." Kira studied his face carefully. "What makes you say that?" "Because I'm not buying it either. This whole setup feels wrong to me. Too convenient. Too perfect." He leaned forward. "I've been here 6 weeks and I can feel myself changing. Not in a good way. In a way that scares me." "What do you mean?" "I used to think about my students all the time. Wonder how they were doing. Worry about their education. Now, when I try to remember specific kids, their faces are getting fuzzy. Like my memories are fading." Kira felt relief and fear at the same time. Relief that she wasn't alone. Fear, because Leo's experience confirmed her worst suspicions. "We need to talk," she said, "but not here." That evening, they met in a quiet corner of the library. Kira shared what she'd discovered about the chemical, compounds in the soil, and her suspicions about the fertility crisis being artificially created. Leo listened with growing alarm. "That's horrible," he whispered. "But it explains a lot. Everyone I knew back home was having trouble starting families. We all thought it was just bad luck or environmental damage from the old industrial days." "There's more," Kira said. She told him about the memory changes she'd noticed in long-term residents and her fear that whatever was causing it would affect them too if they stayed much longer. "So what do? We find others who still remember why. They don't want to be here. We figure out exactly what's being done to us, and we find a way to expose the truth." Over the next week, they carefully identified other potential allies. River, the communications worker, still seemed sharp and questioning. A man named Finn, who had arrived just 2 weeks earlier, appeared uncomfortable with the facility's restrictions. Nurse Patel had already shown herself willing to share concerning information. The group started meeting secretly, disguising their gatherings as study sessions or hobby groups. They developed a system of coded conversations and subtle signals. Most importantly, they began documenting everything they observed about the facility's operations. What they discovered was disturbing. The daily vitamin supplements everyone received contained mild sedatives and memory-affecting compounds. The special meals served to long-term residents included additional chemicals designed to increase dependency and reduce critical thinking. Even the air circulation system pumped in subtle aromatherapy compounds meant to promote relaxation and compliance. "They're literally drugging us into submission," River said during one of their secret meetings. "Slowly, carefully, but definitely." "The question is why," Finn added. "If they just wanted to increase population, there are easier ways to do it. This whole elaborate setup suggests something else is going on." Kira had been thinking about this, too. "I think the fertility crisis was created to give them an excuse for this program. But the real goal isn't just increasing births. It's controlling who has children and what kind of society gets rebuilt." She explained her theory. By selecting specific genetic profiles and controlling the environment where children would be raised, whoever was behind this could essentially design the next generation. They could eliminate people with inconvenient skills, knowledge, or tendencies toward questioning authority. "It's social engineering on a massive scale," she concluded. The group realized they needed to act quickly. Every day they stayed increased the risk of being affected by the facility's mind-altering protocols, but they also needed solid evidence of what was happening if they wanted anyone to believe them. Nurse Patel became their key to getting that evidence. She had access to medical records, chemical analysis reports, and administrative files that detailed the program's true objectives. The risk to her was enormous, but she agreed to help. "I became a nurse to help people," she told them. "What's happening here isn't helping anyone except whoever is running this operation." She began copying files and smuggling them out of the medical center. What the group found in those documents exceeded their worst fears. The program wasn't just operating at Haven Valley. There were dozens of similar facilities across the country, housing thousands of selected individuals. The selection criteria weren't just about genetics. They specifically targeted people whose families had worked in fields where they might discover inconvenient truths. Scientists, journalists, government oversight workers, environmental monitors, agricultural specialists. Their children were being systematically removed from society under the guise of solving the fertility crisis. Even more disturbing, the documents revealed plans for the children who would be born at the facilities. They would be raised in special educational centers, separated from their biological parents, and trained from early childhood to serve specific roles in the new society being designed. "This isn't about solving a crisis," Leo said after reading through the files. "This is about replacing our entire civilization with one designed by whoever is behind this." The group knew they had to get the information to the outside world. But how? The facility was isolated, communication was monitored, and visitors were rare. Their answer came from an unexpected source. During a conversation with another resident, Kira learned that families were occasionally allowed to visit, especially if they made enough noise about wanting to see their relatives. "My brother has been trying to visit me," she told the group. "The administration keeps putting him off, but maybe if he pushes hard enough." They developed a plan. Kira would encourage Jax to demand a visit, using the facility's own public relations messaging about family support and communication. During the visit, she would find a way to pass him the evidence they'd gathered, but as they prepared to put their plan into action, they discovered they had a serious problem. Someone was watching them. During their next meeting, Finn didn't show up. When they checked his room, they found it empty. His belongings were gone, and when they asked staff about him, they were told he had transferred to another facility for specialized treatment. "They know," River said, her voice shaking. "Someone told them about our group." The remaining members looked at each other with suspicion and fear. Who could they trust? Had one of them been reporting to the administration all along, or had they simply been discovered through surveillance? Kira felt the walls closing in around them. Time was running out, and now they couldn't even trust each other completely. But the evidence they'd gathered was too important to abandon. She made a difficult decision. Instead of waiting for a visit from Jax, she would have to find another way to get the information out. even if it meant taking enormous personal risks. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Kira knew that tomorrow would determine not just her own future, but potentially the future of their entire society. The comfortable prison of Haven Valley was about to become a battlefield, and she wasn't sure who would win. The next morning brought news that changed everything. During breakfast, Ms. Chen made an announcement that sent chills through Kira's body. "We're excited to share some wonderful news," she said with her usual bright smile. "Haven Valley will be hosting a special celebration next week. Families of our residents will be invited for a festival celebrating our community's success and the bright future we're building together." Kira's heart raced. This was the opportunity they'd been hoping for. But it came at the worst possible time. With Finn's disappearance, she didn't know who in their group she could still trust. After breakfast, she found Leo in the library. They pretended to read while speaking in whispers. "This could be our chance," he said. "If families are coming, we can get the evidence to them." "Or it could be a trap," Kira replied. "Think about it. Right after we start investigating, suddenly, they're inviting families? That's too convenient. So what do we do?" Kira had been thinking about this all night. "We have to assume they know about us, which means we need to act fast before they can stop us completely." That afternoon, she requested a meeting with Dr. Hawkins. In his office, she put on her most cooperative demeanor. "I wanted to talk to you about my research work," she said. "I think I've made some discoveries that could really help the program." Dr. Hawkins looked interested. "What kind of discoveries?" "I've been analyzing soil samples from different regions, and I found some interesting patterns. But I need access to more advanced equipment to complete my analysis." "The kind of equipment that might be in the main administrative building." "That's a restricted area, Kira. Residents aren't typically allowed there." "I understand. But this research could be really important for understanding optimal nutrition for the program. Maybe someone could escort me just for a few hours?" Hawkins studied her for a long moment. "Let me see what I can arrange." The next day, Kira was escorted to the administrative building by a security guard. The building was more heavily monitored than the residential areas, with card readers at every door and cameras in every hallway. She was given access to an advanced laboratory on the third floor. While pretending to work on soil analysis, she memorized the layout of the building and noted the security measures. Most importantly, she spotted the communications center, a room full of computers and broadcasting equipment. Over the next few days, she continued her research visits, each time learning more about the building's routines and weak points. She also confirmed her worst suspicions about the facility's true purpose. In the administrative files she glimpsed, she saw references to social restructuring protocols and generational compliance programming. The children born at facilities like Haven Valley would indeed be separated from their parents and raised in special centers designed to eliminate independent thinking. The night before the family festival, Kira made her decision. She couldn't wait for the perfect opportunity or worry about who might betray her. The stakes were too high. She shared her plan with the remaining members of their group, Leo, River, and Nurse Patel. It was risky and might not work, but it was their only chance. The festival began at noon the next day. Families streamed into Haven Valley, excited to see their relatives and tour the beautiful facility. Among them, Kira spotted Jax immediately. He looked tired and worried, but his face lit up when he saw her. They hugged tightly, and she whispered in his ear, "Stay close to me today. There are things you need to know." The festival was designed to impress visitors. There were tours of the facilities, demonstrations of the educational programs, and presentations about the success of the National Recovery Program. Everything was carefully choreographed to show happy, healthy residents thriving in their new environment. During a tour of the research facilities, Kira managed to slip away from the group with Jax. She led him to a quiet garden area where they could talk privately. "Jax, I need you to listen carefully," she said. "This place isn't what it seems. The fertility crisis wasn't natural. It was created on purpose. And this program isn't about solving it. It's about controlling who gets to have children and how those children are raised. She quickly explained everything she'd discovered. The chemicals in the soil, the memory-altering treatments, the plans for separating families. Jax's expression grew more horrified with each revelation. "We have to get you out of here," he said. "It's not that simple. Even if I could escape, there are thousands of people in facilities like this across the country. And tonight, I have a chance to expose the whole operation." She outlined her plan. During the evening celebration, when security would be focused on managing the crowd of visitors, she would slip into the administrative building and access the communications center. From there, she could broadcast the evidence they'd gathered to news outlets and government officials outside the conspiracy. "It's too dangerous," Jax said. "If they catch you, if I don't try, this continues. More people disappear into facilities like this. More families are destroyed. And eventually they succeed in rebuilding society exactly the way they want it." That evening, as the celebration reached its peak, Kira put her plan into action. While residents and families gathered in the main hall for speeches and entertainment, she slipped away toward the administrative building. Leo created a distraction by accidentally triggering a fire alarm in one of the residential buildings, drawing security attention away from the administrative area. River and Nurse Patel helped by spreading confusion about which building had the supposed emergency. Kira made it to the communications center and began uploading the files they'd gathered to every major news outlet and government watchdog organization she could find. The process seemed to take forever, but finally, the evidence was out there. As she prepared to leave, Dr. Hawkins appeared in the doorway. "I'm disappointed, Kira," he said sadly. "I really hoped you would adapt to life here." "You mean you hoped I would forget who I used to be and stop caring about my freedom? Freedom is overrated when society is collapsing. What we're doing here will save civilization. By destroying it first, by improving it. The old world was failing, Kira. Disease, environmental collapse, social chaos. We're creating something better. By lying to people and forcing them into your vision of better," Dr. Hawkins sighed. "You'll understand eventually. Most residents do, given time." But Kira had one more surprise. The broadcast she'd sent wasn't just evidence files. It included a live video feed from the communications center, streaming everything that was happening right now to thousands of people outside the facility. Dr. Hawkins realized what was happening. When security personnel rushed into the room, speaking urgently into their radios about unauthorized broadcasts and compromised communications. Within hours, news of the conspiracy was spreading across the country. Other facilities were being investigated. Government officials were being questioned. The carefully maintained secret was collapsing. The festival ended abruptly as officials arrived to shut down Haven Valley's operations. Some residents chose to leave immediately with their families. Others, especially those who had been there longer, seemed confused and frightened by the sudden change. Kira was reunited with Jax as chaos erupted around the facility. They held each other tightly as vehicles arrived to transport residents who wanted to leave. "What happens now?" Jax asked. "I don't know," Kira admitted. "The people behind this had a lot of power and resources. Some of them might escape consequences. And there are probably other facilities we don't know about yet. But you stopped this one. You exposed the truth." "We stopped this one," she corrected, thinking of Leo, River, Nurse Patel, and even Finn, wherever he was now. As they rode away from Haven Valley, Kira looked back at the beautiful buildings and manicured grounds. In the distance, she could see some residents standing at windows, watching the exodus with expressions she couldn't quite read. The fertility crisis was real, even if it had been artificially created. Society did face serious challenges that needed solutions. But those solutions would have to be found through honest cooperation and genuine choice, not through deception and control. Kira squeezed Jax's hand and faced forward, toward an uncertain but free future. There would be difficult times ahead, but at least people would face them with their eyes open and their choices their own.